Hey, welcome back to the Relentless Positivity Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Martin. Got a great guest with me today here, Alex Mercieca. I was nervous about saying his name. Hope got it right. I think it's because he's much bigger than me, so I had to get it right. So we're gonna go into some stuff right now. He's kind of like a Renaissance man. So I'm gonna tell you, I'm just gonna start off. I'm just gonna run the list, and you tell me what I left out. So I'm gonna start with that. So AP history teacher, musician in a band, as well as teaching other people how to play. Level 3 CrossFit coach. There's 4 levels. He's almost got them all. So that's a ton of them. He's a strong man, ordained minister, podcaster, amateur cooking show host, and he's also a dad and a husband. So what else did I leave out, man?
Um, man, I'm pretty sure there's some stuff on there.
Motorcycle
Really
rider. You're a fan of
yeah,
motorcycles, right? Yeah.
yeah, I like riding motorcycles. I like reading, spending time with the family. Um, I mean, pretty much anything. I like finding stuff that I'm not good at and then trying to at least become mediocre.
Yeah. Yeah, I was named correctly. I'm really average at a lot of stuff, man. So
Yeah.
that's good. So that takes guts, man, to try something you're terrible at and actually go after it. That's a lot of people are not willing to do that. So that's cool you do that. So let's talk about this. We talked about an AP history teacher. Let's talk about your journey. How did you become a teacher? Did you always think you wanted to be a teacher? Or how did that process start?
Man, this is just something that it just happened.
Yeah.
I was in school, started off in business, and after that kind of started going through, I didn't really like the whole business model stuff about just, do what you have to do to maximize profit. And just the idea behind it really didn't sit well with me. So decided to switch over majors. And during this time, my mom had passed also. So I was kind of struggling what I needed to do then. I'm, early 20s. So then I decided to shift over to education, taking care of my dad at the time after that happened. And then just kind of stayed in school for a little bit, got the bachelor's degree, put in my job applications, couldn't get any job yet teaching. Went and pursued my master's degree, same thing, got done with my master's, tried to pursue to get a job. Nobody was hiring. First question they'd always ask me, so what do you coach? And I was like, I don't coach sports. I never really played sports growing up. I was either playing cello in orchestra or I was in high school band. So then after that, I started off, I was planned on working towards my PhD. So I got about, 18 credit hours into my PhD. Finally got the phone call. I figured, hey, you know what? It was towards the end of the 9 weeks. It was at Lee. And I said, might as well go ahead and, pick up this it was just a temporary job. So I was like, go ahead and pick it up, get a little bit of income in happening, and then pick up on school again in the fall. So I worked with my professors because it was halfway through the semester. Ended up getting back, finished up that semester at UNA with my courses kind of remotely since I was working. Then I got a job interview with, long story short, she was my best friend's mom's best friend, who was also my 7th and 8th grade science teacher. And my friend's mom was a 7th and 8th grade English teacher. So me and my buddy would always hang out together, and I was always at his house from 5th grade all the way through high school. So she had known me since I was a kid, and now she's the principal. She sees my name on the list. She calls me up, hey, when you want to come in and interview? Yeah, sure, no problem. So I go in, interview, end up getting my foot in the door, and then really wasn't sure if it was something that I was kind of wanting to do, but just kind of fell in love with it over the years. And, now I couldn't see myself doing anything else. It's real rewarding. It's fun. I like building the relationships with the kids, just getting them thinking again. I guess I'm at a point in my career now where, especially with a lot of the AP classes, I like to get them out of the mindset of trying to play the game of school to win the score, and shift their brain to, what did you actually learn today? What's something meaningful that you got out of today's lesson? And then when they start to make the connections, and I overhear conversations that they're having about course material and like how it relates to their life and stuff like that, then that's kind of like a win for me.
I bet that's a challenge right there, man. So if you can
Yeah.
pull that off, that's amazing, especially nowadays with all the technology and stuff like that. If you can get kids thinking outside of the box like that, that's something right there. So
Yeah.
I talked about, you know, the list of 15 jobs that you have right there at the beginning and things that you do. So I imagine you've picked up some tips on, you know, kind of time management, how you figure out. So how do you fit it all in with all these things you do?
You know, it's all fun. So, and, you know, it's like talking to folks that are hooked on video games all the time. You're like, how do you put in all these hours a week playing video games? Because I really don't see anything that I do as work. Like, you know, when I do the CrossFit coaching in the morning and stuff, that's fun for me. You know, I wake up in the morning, I'll get my workout in, I'll go and, you know, coach a great group of folks that are really fun to be around. I look forward to it. Come home, able to have enough time to be able to cook breakfast for the family. We can all have, you know, homemade breakfast in the morning before I head off to work. I got all day, you know, teaching at school to be able to hang out with, you know, all my students and, you know, try to make some differences there. I try to get everything done that I can get done at school as far as like the grading and the planning and stuff like that goes. And then after school, if we have, you know, like if my band's playing that night, then I usually try to squeeze in enough time to be able to head back to the house, get about an hour nap in, be able to get some dinner put together, go out and play with my band, and come home and, you know, do it all again the next day.
Wow. So what kind of, how many hours of sleep you getting per night on average?
It all depends. I like to usually get between 7 and 8. I kind of go to bed a little bit early. If we're not playing, then usually 8:30, 9 o'clock.
I
So
hear you. I'm on that same schedule, man. I got you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's nice. And I always tell folks, I mean, naps are so underrated, man. You got to go, and you can squeeze in a nap, you know, 30 minutes here, you know, 15 minutes, whatever. That's kind of like the key to being able to keep going strong.
I'm a huge believer in naps every
Yep.
day. I nap every day. If not,
Yep.
something went wrong, man. I'm a big believer. I'm with you on that. And they're
Mm-hmm.
powerful, especially with a big schedule like that, like what you got. So you mentioned your band. What's the name of your band?
Long story short, behind the name, me and my buddy Preston have been playing together for years, you know, well over a decade. And we had a guy that we were playing with, and he couldn't make it one evening for a gig. So me and him were talking. It was like, hey, you know, well, you know any drummers that could play? So we called one of our buddies named Rob Buck. And the joke was like, well, hey, you know, Rob's playing with us tonight. So I guess, you know, we're not, you know, out of luck. I was like, we got Buck. So let's tell them that our name's Bucked Up because we got Rob Buck. And it was just kind of like a laugh, you know, because here's Rob Buck and we're Bucked Up. And then so we played and it went over great. It was the first time we'd ever played together. We didn't even practice. So then we played and went over great at the establishment. Hey, you know, can we get y'all back here again? And we're like, well, I mean, yeah, sure, you know, no problem. So then we booked a bunch under Bucked Up, and then, you know, next thing you know, 9, 10 years later, we're playing everywhere under Bucked Up. So that's kind of how we got that name. It's because of our drummer.
Yeah. Hey, man, I'm good at naming stuff too. So I named my business Joe Martin Fitness because my name is Joe Martin and I do fitness. So I get you, man. Names are important.
Perfect. Yeah.
So what kind of music do you guys play?
Literally everything.
I got you.
We kind of had the mindset going into it that we weren't just going to be a particular style or genre, but we were going to play songs that are fun for us, songs that we like to listen to, and songs that are fun for us to play. Because, you know, we'd all been in bands before where they were trying to, you know, select songs based off of, you know, what the crowd likes and what everybody requests or whatnot. And that's what they're going to learn. So there's always like the songs that you just hate playing and hate singing. And, you know, when we kind of got together, it was like, look, I don't want to play any songs that aren't fun for me. And that's kind of the mentality that we all had coming into it. So with that being said, we do some Metallica. We do some Garth Brooks. We do some Hank. We do some Pantera. We do Pink Floyd. We do some Joe Satriani. We do Joe Walsh. We do, you know, just pretty much a little bit of everything. Everything from, you know, we do a couple jazz tunes, a couple blues tunes. Christmas time, we'll do some like finger picking style type of, you know, Christmas songs and whatnot. But everything that we play, you know, I think we play it pretty well, and I have a good time playing, and the crowd seems to like it. When you go from playing, you know, Master of Puppets into playing Family Tradition, and the crowd's still equally going crazy between the two because, you know, they know we're having a fun time, and we kind of like project that energy out as well.
Yeah. So one of the coolest things I've seen you do is your one-man band. So tell people about how you do the Sugar Hill Gang all by yourself.
Okay, well, this is another long story short one. So way back in the day, me and Preston we've been trying out drummers left and right, and we were finding folks. They might come to one get together practice, and then it was one of those situations where we're both like, yeah, or they would come to practice and we'd be like, oh yeah, they're pretty good, and then we never hear from them again. So I had a drum set at my house, and I was just kind of toying around with it a little bit. So I was kind of joking with him one day. I was like, man, you know what? I bet if we got some kind of simple songs to play, then I could figure out a way to be able to do a drum beat and then tap a simple bass line with it. So we had a handful, maybe about maybe a half night worth of material where I played the drums and bass and sang, and then Preston played guitar over it. So we kind of set that up, and I was trying to figure out what all songs I could play and which ones I couldn't. So we had a couple. We did like Metallica, For Whom the Bell Tolls, because it was compared to the other songs, simple drum beat, simple bass line. Mary Jane's Last Dance, a couple other ones, a couple AC/DC songs that we did as well. And so I got with the Rapper's Delight because that was always a fun bass line. And I was just sitting there, I wonder if I can do this. So, that was one of the ones added to the set as well. I also used to do Lottie Dottie by Snoop Dogg. I do some Cypress Hill stuff occasionally as well. But that's kind of like the leftovers of what we used to do back in the late 2000s. And that's kind of when we picked up with our first drummer, because it was getting to the point where like we got all these songs we want to play, but we're not able to do them justice because I'm stuck down doing three things at once. So when we got a drummer, it kind of freed us up a little bit, and we were able to expand our topics. But that's kind of how the one man band thing originated, was just basically out of necessity. And also, being a bass player, it's really hard to find somebody to come over just to jam, just to play like drums, just to have a little jam session with. So I said, what about just, let one of the voices in my head take over, and, I'll let you be drums and I'm going to be bass. And then I'll let the other personality be the singer. And, all three of us kind of work together pretty well, since kind of all in the same head. So I just gave each personality its own appendage, and we went with it.
It's impressive, man. There's a lot going on there. It's impressive to see. So, do you
Well,
guys have any gigs coming up? Is Bucked Up have any gigs coming up? Did you guys?
Yeah, man, I don't know what happens. We'll go from like December, we're looking at our calendar for the next year, and we're like, okay, we're open next year. And then within like 3 weeks, we're booked through the whole year. So our next one that we have coming up is actually this coming Friday on February 19th, and it's going to be at Mars Music Hall from 7 to 10 p.m. And then, the following week, I think we have a show at Shag Nasty's, and then Moe's Barbecue. I know next month we got booked up at Humphreys, and then we just kind of rotate between several establishments. So I know that we're at least 2 to 3 a month from now until July. And then usually by the time July hits, we'll be solid booked through the end of the year.
What's the best place? Facebook page? What's the best place to follow you guys?
Yeah, we have a Facebook page that we keep updated pretty regularly with our gigs. If you just do Bucked Up with apostrophe, no E, BUCK apostrophe D up, then you'll be able to find it. You'll find a picture.
Yeah, and I'll link that in the show notes as well, so they can just click on it. But yeah, so that's the best place probably to follow upcoming gigs and all that good stuff.
Yeah, we stay pretty up to date on posting events and stuff like that.
Okay. All right, let's kind of switch it more to you personally. So what's one of your biggest failures you've had, and what did you learn from it?
Oh man, let me think. That's just one thing that kind of comes up. I don't really see anything as being failures. I see it as being obstacles.
Sure.
Like when my mom died back in my early 20s, that was a really big obstacle, because she kind of like held down everything. Now my youngest one was diagnosed with neuroblastoma and osteoclonus myoclonus when she was 19 months old, and lost all motor skill. So that was like a huge battle that we had to go through and overcome. So I learned a lot from that. My dad had a massive stroke about a year and a half ago, which totally stripped him of his independence. He's 88, just had a birthday last week. So now it's to the point where, that's another thing having to take care of on top of that. Then other setbacks, my wife got diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer back in August. So she's, in the middle of battling through all that as well. And a couple of years ago, my sister had a massive aneurysm, and they thought that she was going to die, and it was like 2% chance that she would recover, and by a miracle, that 2% chance she made a full recovery from that. So,
Wow.
we had that stuff. So I mean, really, it's not like there was like a something that I failed at, or like a challenge in life. But I don't know, man. When you go through real stuff in life, you know what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I've gone through like some big hectic type of thing, but when you have
That's a
stuff
lot of
that's like,
stuff, man. That's a lot
yeah,
going on.
well, you got stuff like really going on in life, and then it kind of puts everything in perspective.
Sure.
When it's like, people talk to me and they'll complain to me about their life's problems, and some people, they don't know what life problems are yet. I'm like, well, you know what? To them in their life right now, this is a big problem for them. I mean, sure, it's like in comparison. I mean, I've been through some pretty rough stuff, and I'm not even there. There's a couple other things that I'm leaving out in there, just personal things that are really just like, you'd be like, what, whoa, and on top of that, because there was
Mm-hmm.
others. When my mom died, there was a whole other situation going on, in coincidence with that as well. But it's not about what you go through in life; it's about how you handle it. So
Absolutely.
I always use what people would see as setbacks, because my mom died when I was in the middle of my undergraduate school. I could have easily quit school and done something else. My wife's cancer diagnosis had happened right in the middle because of my second round of grad school. Because I graduated in December with a master's degree in educational administration to kind of move up the ladder for principal stuff. So I mean, her diagnosis and chemos and all that stuff was going on like right in the middle of me doing this grad school thing with the switch over to the virtual. So I mean, it was challenges. I still managed to pull out like A's in all my classes and get it all done and taken out. But I mean, that's the thing. It's like some people will shut down. It kind of like gives me that extra push. It's like, wow, now I really have to do it. Now there's not an excuse. Just keep pushing forward. There's always tomorrow. There's always a chance to try to do something. So I always like try to get that mentality of, if today was my last day, what's something that I could look back and say like, okay, well, at least I did that today. I don't want to wake up and say, oh, well, maybe tomorrow I'll do this, or maybe next week I'll do this. Cause I mean, I could get off the phone with you and slip and bump my head and be done with it, So I
Absolutely, man.
try to do what I can each day.
Yeah, tomorrow is not promised, man. So you got,
Yeah.
I like that attitude. So you
Yeah.
kind of touched on a little bit. Take us through what being a teacher is like these days. It's hard enough before. What does it look like now?
Man, it's different, but in the same point, man, kids are gonna be kids. Um, I've taught the trenches. I've taught from 7th grade all the way through 12th. So I've taught every class that the kids are going to have. At one point in time, I've taught every single course except for some of the AP classes, but I have taught the regular versions of, psychology, sociology. I taught those at Lee. When I did my student teaching, I did government economics. Um, uh, uh, 7th and 8th grade, when I taught those 2 grades at Providence, I taught the civics and geography for 7th, and then the 8th grade world history. Started off at New Century with 9th grade and 11th grade regular history courses, and then I've taught 10th grade also, because I was half at Lee, and that's a whole nother story of how I was able to be shifted from my role at Providence in middle school to getting over at New Century. That's a whole nother story in itself right there. But after I ended up getting over there, slowly started getting to the AP programs, building up from those. So I had got my AP Human Geography, which is that's my favorite all-time course. AP World History and AP Euro. So teaching today, like with everything that's going on, it's one of these situations where in a normal year I'd be doing things a lot differently. I really try to, like I was telling you at the beginning, shift the thinking of the kids from what do I have to know for the test? What do you want me to write down on the paper? To, hey, look at this really cool article that I found, or hey, me and my friend were having a discussion on this, and we were wondering how it relates to what we're learning in class. The AP Human Geography class that I teach is for freshmen, and it literally covers everything. I mean, it's everything from, cultural aspects of what type of food do you eat, the language you speak, the music you listen to, the clothes you wear, to map reading, to why cities are set up the way they do. Why do they choose to build this new neighborhood over here? When they put a new road through, what considerations do they use? To, what type of foods, how our types of foods produced, what types of countries produce what types of food, and how does that influence what they eat. What's the difference between GMO and non-GMO? What does fresh farmed fish versus wild caught fish, like what's actually the difference? What's the real difference between cage free eggs and the ones that you just get that are the regular ones? So it's literally a little bit of everything about humans and their contribution, industry and factories, what they produce, how it's shipped from place to place. I mean, anything you can possibly think about, you can connect to the class. So
Wow.
trying to get the kids' brains to shift from what do I have to know to, wow, this is something interesting. I was playing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I was thinking about how the GPS stuff we were talking about with remote sense data and ground truthing and stuff is something that I didn't even realize that I was doing on Breath of the Wild when I'm setting my pin drop markers, trying to figure out where my important locations are for when I go back. And I'm like, yeah, that's where we're getting the connection to the old knowledge. But with the pandemic thing comes in, the hardest part is trying to make the connections with the kids, because I can't do as an effective job, I feel, if I can't get to know my students. I like to get to know their interests. What type of music do you listen to? What type of family do you come from? What type of stuff do you do for your entertainment? Because then I can kind of curtail the lessons towards their interests. So they think we're just having random conversations about stuff, when in all actuality, we're covering course standards. They're doing research and stuff and learning about different standards that relate to the course without even knowing that they're doing it. So, like, just for me as an educator, not being able to make that really personal connection with the kids is a little more challenging. And then seeing them, the types of hardships they're suffering on their ends. I mean, I can just tell, man, some days the kids are like, not want to have their cameras cut on. I mean, I'm totally cool with that when I do my lessons. Like, if you don't have your camera cut on, like, dude, I understand, man. Don't worry about it. But some of them cut them on. I can just tell if they're bummed out, or just like responses that they're given, or it might be 2-3 weeks before you hear from a kid, and then they're sending you this long email about how they're just like depressed and feeling all sad and alone and stuff like that. And that's the stuff right there that I really wish there was more that I could do for them in that aspect. But the competition with technology and stuff like that is, that's kind of a double discussion right there. Because number one, if you're adapting your methods to today's kids, then it's really not that much more difficult than it would have been years ago. But if you're still set in with the same methods that worked 30-40 years ago, and not kind of adopting them to the kids, then that's kind of where we get the problems. And I always try to stay like on top of stuff. I mean, I still like playing video games. So, I'm able to connect with a lot of the kids on that. I have a huge variety of music that I listen to. So when the kids suggest like, songs and music that they listen to, I'll learn them. I'll listen to them. I'll sit there and kind of incorporate the lyrics of their favorite songs into lessons as well, but not to the point to where they know that's what I'm doing. But if I can find a point in the lesson where I'm explaining something, and then there's like a phrase of a song that I'll throw in like a phrase, I'll see their eyes like peek up and they're like, did you just quote that one song? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm just teaching this lesson. They're like, no, I'm pretty sure that you quoted like a whole verse from that one song. I'm like, no, well, I'm glad you're paying attention, but, and then we'll kind of move on from that. But I don't know, man, but like I said, man, it's just the one hardship is trying to make those connections in this digital format that we're doing. But I mean, dude, I love my job teaching. I really don't even want to go into administration, like, as like one of these like life goals of like, oh, this is what I want to do when I want to be in administration, because admin. It's kind of more one of those like, I feel that would be the best next step. I'm trying to get as good as I can get, at least in my own eyes, and then try to share some of that with my teachers. And being blessed to have an administrative staff that is all about being there for the teachers and supporting the teachers. I mean, like, I've never had a pair of administration that I've worked for like I have now that are so supportive. And I mean, they will go out of their way to make sure that the teachers at the school are successful. And that rolls over, because when you support the teachers, then the teachers will go and support the students.
Sure.
But I've also been in the gotcha environment before, where you would have, one of the admins like trying to sneak around the corner to pop in with the clipboard as soon as, the children started getting unruly, writing stuff down really fast and like looking at you like, gotcha. And, it puts you in a real, bad place just professionally. And then the kids see it, and they're not treating the adults with as much respect anymore, because they see, your boss is talking down to you in front of them. Now they're going to start talking down, and then it's just a whole chain reaction that loses that credibility and support network. So I'm a real advocate from, top down leadership, but you have to treat your employees the way that you want your employees to treat, the other folks around them. So that's something that I've learned over the past few years with my current administration. So hopefully, when it's my time to take the reins, because it's not something I'm rushing, I'm not, begging and searching, but when the time comes and it's right and the opportunity presents itself, and I do move into that, then hope to make kind of like a seamless transition to, benefit and, do the best I can with wherever I'm at, if that makes
That's
sense.
it. Yeah, absolutely, man. So I'm gonna come audit your class. I want to take that human geography class. That sounds awesome.
Man, dude, I'm telling you, man, that's what I tell the kids every year when they come in. I'm like, by halfway through this class, your parents are going to be super excited about your projects. They're going to want to help you. They're going to, want to talk to you about this stuff. And the only problem that happens is the kids being freshmen. I mean, like, I get it, dude. Like, you're, 13, 14. You don't care about world stuff yet. It really doesn't matter. But I don't know what it is, like when you get to that like 18, 19-year-old age, when that curiosity really starts going into overdrive, and all of a sudden it's like you're sitting around watching History Channel documentaries and doing all these types of like, research stuff, and watching all like the food documentaries, and, there's the whole little series and stuff they got on like Netflix or whatnot. And then all of a sudden you realize like, wow, this is all the stuff that we were talking about in AP Human Geography class. So I always get kids that'll either after graduation or even like seniors and stuff, they'll come and be like, wow, man, they're doing that one. Like, I thought that was the most boring stuff when we were doing it, but looking back, that was so much fun. And then they're sitting there telling the freshmen like detail by detail of all these really huge projects they did, which is like making me happy, because like you actually remembered something what you did in school. And that's another really big thing is, meaning and purpose. Like, what do you remember from, seventh grade or high school? Like, what are some of the most memorable things? And, the big teacher thing is like, students don't remember what you teach them. They remember how you made them feel, like which teachers' classes did you enjoy going to and why. So it's just fun to have that connective with the material, to where they're like, oh yeah, this is something that we learned about. Oh yeah, and then we did this. Well, what did you do? Oh, well, I did mine with, these type of aspects or whatever. And then like the seniors who don't even have my class are talking more enthusiastically about my class, 3 years later than they did when they were in it. And they're like, wow. And one of the best ones I had a kid tell me this a few years ago. He's like, you know what? I really wish I could have taken your class as a senior, because I would have appreciated it a lot more as a senior than as a freshman. And I was like, I know, man, I get it. And I even tell the freshman kid that I'm like, look, this is not something you're going to appreciate now, but hopefully when you look back at it, 3-4 years from now, you'll have fun with it. And when I tell them about their parents being super excited about doing the projects with them the first day of school, halfway through the course, they're like, you were right. I'm like, about what? And they're like, because you said that my mom was really going to enjoy helping me with this project. And now that's all she ever talks about. I get home, she's like, what'd you do in human geography class today? Well, hey, I found these articles, and like the parents are interacting and engaging with the kids. And that's a win for me, man. When I get, parents and kids talking about educational stuff that's happening at school and they're both excited about it, I'm like, woo, that's my win.
That's it, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wish I would have loved learning as much as I do now when I was actually in school. But I was on the other side. I'm just trying to get this grade and move on. I was playing the game like you talked about. But there were some classes that I actually, when you remember those teachers that engaged you and made that, you'll never forget them. So that's cool. You're making a dent in those kids' brain for them. So So kind of another way you've connected with students, you started a CrossFit at your school. So kind of tell me about that process and how that came about.
Oh man, that's a really fun story, right? So at Huntsville City Schools a couple years ago, I guess it's more than a couple years ago. I mean, you start getting old, and all of a sudden the
Oh
years
yeah.
just like run together. I was like, was that last year? Like, no, that was back in the 19. Like, what? But it was a couple years ago. They decided to implement this thing called Power Hour. So what Power Hour is we're on AB block days. So we got 4 classes on A day, and then we got 4 different classes on B day. So what they decided to do, because they're having lots of issues with this demographics of students who relied on bus transportation to and from school. So they couldn't ever participate in any after school activities. They couldn't ever participate in any before school activities. Just the amount of course load the kids are going through. They figured, like, what's the way that we could kind of make it to where the kids could be able to participate clubs and activities during the school day. So they came up with this concept that's in several different school districts in the country. It's called Power Hour. So what they'll do is they'll have 2 classes in the morning. They'll have an hour break in the middle of the day, and then they'll have their other 2 classes in the afternoon. So during this hour break, you have 30 minutes for lunch, and then you have 30 minutes for clubs and activities. Now, this can be anything ranging from, student government to key club to video game club. Yes, we had that. We had and Japanese anime enthusiast club. So any type of community that the kids wanted to get together, as long as they had a student sponsor, as long as they had a teacher sponsor that was willing to host the club to supervise, then they could do that. So the principal was sitting there kind of noticing, because I kind of go through phases in my CrossFit. Like sometimes this is right around the time that I was studying for my level 3. I took my level 3 the first time thinking, oh, I know all this stuff, I'm not worried about studying for it, I've been doing this forever, and didn't do as well as I thought I was going to do on it. And it was it was obscure areas of stuff that I really didn't bother learning, like the whole like administration management portion of it. Nothing about the programming and coaching stuff. I mean, that was simple, but it was all the other stuff that I never really got down. So I talked to one of my buddies, like, what's the best way to pass it? And he's like, well, you just need to obsess over it and live it. So I was like, okay, cool. So I was doing the whole diet thing. I mean, I cut down. I was like 205. Like, I was super, super lean. So I mean, that's the diet stuff that they suggest. It works, but I really like to cook. I really like to eat, and I really like to have my little relaxing beverages at the end of the day as well. And you can't really have both, But anyways, so the principal comes to me. She's like, hey, what would you think about doing a CrossFit club here? Because we've had a couple of the kids that have been asking about some type of exercise, something. So I was like, oh, club. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like during Power Hour. So it would just be like a 30-minute slot in Power Hour. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll totally do that. So it started off, and then I was having, 30 plus kids that were coming just to
Wow.
do, and we were just doing kinesthetic workouts. We were doing, lunges and squats and push-ups and bear crawls, and you know what I'm talking about. I need to
Yeah.
explain those. So we would go through those, and every Friday we'd have that 30-minute little stint. I come in, get the kids kind of warmed up. I had some ones that were really enthusiastic about it, but I was able to kind of start mentoring to kind of help coach, because just from a coaching standpoint, when you have 30 plus kids, it's really hard to be able to coach 30 plus kids. And that was my big thing, was safety first, and we need to get everybody mechanically moving good. So that's another reason we didn't do any weighted movements or anything where they could get injured. And eventually got a couple kids kind of on board, and they were kind of walking around just helping with squats, because they had athletic backgrounds, which is very rare at New Century. So, the next year kind of kicked up, and there are tons of kids having interest in it. And the principal was like, hey, what would you think about actually doing a CrossFit class at the school? So by this time, one of my friends was telling me that if you run a nonprofit, whether it's like a school or if it's like a firehouse or a police officer thing, or like military, and you have a place that provides like gyms to your folks there, that you can apply for a nonprofit CrossFit affiliation, which is not something that anybody with any sense of business would ever want to do, because you can't charge anything. You can't charge for any shirts that you might produce with the logo on it. You can't charge anybody any types of fees. Like everything is done 100% free just for the people that work there. I don't get an extra stipend for doing it. It's just totally, totally free. So we ended up getting the CrossFit affiliate, some local CrossFit gyms like, CrossFit Huntsville, and they really helped us out with some fundraising, and were able to get us enough to buy a rig. High Temp really came through and donated thousands of pounds of bumper plates to us, and then just random individuals were donating barbells and kettlebells and things like that. Ride equipment, donated a $2,000 gift card, so I was able to get medicine balls and some more kettlebells and jump ropes and stuff like that. But and the community really pulled through to get it up and rolling. And then all of a sudden, she was showing me this course manual. It's like, which one of these course numbers would best fit your course? So I found one that was like fitness and conditioning that has course standards. It's like, outdoor field trips and stuff. So I was able to kind of put the course together on that. But because I'm not a PE coach, and it can't be offered as a PE class, so the students don't get PE credit for it, but they can just take it as an elective. So over the last, I think this is the third year that we've had it in. The first year we started up, like that was the 1 year that I was able to do it pandemic free. We had this awesome competition at the school. It was brains and brawn competition where we had the track outside. We were able to do like 4 really cool workouts. We had some prizes and stuff that were donated by Two Food that we were able to give to the folks participating. Was able to get enough money kind of raised because we're not trying to make tons of money off of it, but I just like to make enough every year so that way we can be able to pay for the field trips that we take. Like we went kayaking the year before last when we were a full year, because it's kind of like one of our trips. I tried like a kayaking trip, like a hiking trip. We were trying to get in with some of like the rock climbing stuff as well, but it was right towards the beginning where all that stuff was being built before it was finished. And last year the shutdown with the pandemic towards the end of the year when all of our stuff was supposed to be kicking up, and who knows what this year is going to hold in store for us. But it just seemed to be really good for the kids, seeing them get excited, seeing them actually progress throughout the year. These like small, sit in front of the video games all the time, all about the computer stuff, never athletic, never picked. Now all of a sudden, they're learning that body kinesthetic awareness point. Because I mean, these are like super smart kids, but some of them, when it comes to that body kinesthetic awareness, it's just really not good. And it kind of humbles them a little bit because when they make fun of the kids that aren't as academically gifted as they are, they can kind of see like, well, everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses. But then at the same time, through my leading by example, I like to find things that I'm not good at and try to get better at them. So let's try to find the things that you're not good at and try to get better at them. It's like you're not good at, retaining information. Let's figure out ways to make that stick. You're not good at moving your body through space and body awareness. Let's try to work on that a little bit so we can get you a little bit better. But I mean, the kids love it. They see the progress that these kids are making in the course. Folks are always, hey, can I take that class next year? Yeah, sure. I try to limit it. I don't want it to be a massively huge class. I like to limit it to maybe 10 to 15 students, and 15 being on the big side. But I like it to be 10 kind of selected that I can really work with, that I think the class is going to benefit them the most. I don't want to work with, because that's usually like how all like the superstar wannabe coaches are. Like they want to take the collegiate athlete and take the collegiate athlete to the next level. So they're like the top man. Give me the smallest, the weakest, the most uncoordinated kid. Those are the ones that I want to work with. Those are the ones that at the end of the day, when I see them walking down the hallways and their friends are like, wow, I remember when you used to be the small one of the group and now you're all big, and like they're just like grinning from ear to ear, knowing that years worth of hard work they put in is starting to show out, and people are starting to notice. That confidence, seeing them walk down the hallway with their head up in the air and their shoulders back, and just that whole different idea. I see them smiling, I see them talking, I see them interacting with other students when beforehand, there wasn't there wasn't nothing going on. They was walking with their head down, all keeping to themselves, and just seeing that personality change, not necessarily the physical, but the personality change associated with it is one of my favorite parts about that CrossFit program at school, because that's what keeps me wanting to do it again the next year, and that's my motivation.
Very cool, man. So you mentioned before in high school you were playing the cello, you're in the band. How does that guy become the super weightlifting guy that you are today? What were you always into weights back then, or just something you fell into later?
Man, I've always been one of the strongest ones in my class. Just like ever since I was little, I was always like the little fat butterball kid that was like, "Hey, watch this! Watch me pick up this rock! Hey, watch this!" And I'm like, picking up the rock and picking up my friends, and always like lifting everything that I could to show how strong I was. It's like preschool type of stuff. I was the kid out in the preschool playground, like picking up the tricycles over my head and like picking up all the stuff off the ground or whatnot. And then you know playing cello and stuff like that, because I started playing cello when I was like really young. I was in 7th grade. I went to this training camp at the University of Alabama, and I was like the youngest one there. I was like the only non-college kid there. So my mom was a classical opera singer and also a classical pianist that toured Europe when she was a teenager, and sang on the radio from the time she was 5. So she was a phenomenal musician as well. And she was always nervous about me, playing sports and getting hurt, because if something happened to my hands and I broke fingers and I wasn't able to play cello again, like how's it going to affect the rest of my musical career? So when high school kicked up, they didn't have any type of orchestras at Huntsville High for real. So learn how to play trombone in 3 weeks. It took me like 3 weeks to learn how to play trombone and read music on that. Auditioned for the band, got in high school band, played trombone, played baritone, played tuba, through high school. And then, kind of picked up the bass guitar in high school a little bit, because a couple of my friends are wanting to do the band thing. And I figured, bass guitar's got 4 strings, cello's got 4 strings, man, why not? Let me see what I can do. So we started playing that a little bit, and had a little hiatus spurt in my early 20s, and then kind of reconnected with music after my mom passed, and just kind of took it from there. So the music aspect's always been a part of it. The weightlifting stuff is, I've always kind of had a gym membership. If you're an old school Huntsville person like I am, born and raised here, one of my first gym memberships was Gold's Gym at Heart of Huntsville Mall. And just to show you how old I am, that was back when the entrance, you had to go into the mall to go into the Gold's Gym.
Mm-hmm.
That was before they switched it over to the outside entrance. So I'm old if I remember
That's old
that.
school. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, dude, I was so happy to get that Gold's Gym membership. I think I was 15 when I got it. And so, that was one of those like, ooh, when I get my car, then I can go. So, but I was a kid too. I was just doing little blow stuff, but I was kind of in and out there forever. And then, Gold's Gym shut down and sent the memberships out to, scattered them about. Some I got picked up by 24/7 when they were on Winchester. So, it's worked out there, and gradually kind of got introduced to CrossFit. One of my buddies, Robert Norman, he was kind of dabbling in CrossFit a little bit. He's like, hey, man, because we used to work out together a lot. And he was like, hey, man, you got to try this stuff with me. So I was like, okay. So, me and him started doing it. And it was one of those, like, this is going to supplement the bodybuilding. And then it kind of turned into the bodybuilding stuff got really boring. And it really wasn't that functional, because, like, you throw in some of those functional CrossFit strongman type of movements, and it lets you show you what real strength is, and what, what are looks versus function. So then I just kind of got into that. And long story short, it was one of these situations where, hey, we're going to make a CrossFit facility, but we're going to charge you a lot more to use it. And I was like, I'm a teacher, so I can't afford that. And then they're like, well, hey, why don't you coach a morning class, since you're always here at 4:00 in the morning anyways? I was like, okay, great. So, and that's kind of how the coaching stuff happened, like totally unintentional, like never pursued. I never had this dream of, oh, I'm going to be a level 3 CrossFit coach one day and have my own CrossFit affiliate, the first and only CrossFit affiliate in Alabama, and the only one to my knowledge in the world that is run the way like I run mine, because we do like level 1 preparation where we're learning about, energy pathway systems. We're learning about nutrition. We're learning about CrossFit methodology, putting together training programs on top of the training. To my knowledge, a lot of the high school or CrossFit affiliates that you see are a PE coach that has his L1 that goes and gets his PE class branded as CrossFit. But we actually get into the methodology, and there's reading and, the nutrition aspect of it. The kids are designing diets, they're designing workout programs. We're studying like, the different levels of Olympic lifting programs, the different types of strongman stuff from, hatch squat programs to Wendler 531 to, the juggernaut stuff that's out there and the 5x5s and, everything in between, just to kind of give them an idea on that. But yeah, man, this never really, it wasn't like one of those, this is my passion and now I finally reached the pinnacle. It was like life just kind of, it says, hey man, this is going to be something else you're going to do, so here you go. And then it just kind of falls in my lap, and I just look at it and say, well, yeah, I guess this is where life's taking me now, so let's see where it goes.
Yeah, I see a theme in your life where you're just like, all right, that's what I'm doing
Yeah.
next. And you just take it, life takes it, and then you, like you said, you figure it out. I don't know how to do this yet, but I'll figure it out. So, man, that's a great attitude to have. So, man, I really appreciate you coming on here. People need to go check you guys out at Bucked Up. Like I said, I'll link that in the show notes. I'm going to audit your class. I'm going to take that human geography class.
Yeah, come on.
You can check out it. He's got a podcast. You got to check his podcast out. I'll link that as well. Just another way he connects with his students. Man, I really appreciate you coming on here, especially what you're doing for all the kids out there. We need more teachers like you.
Oh man, I appreciate it. I just, I do what's fun for me. I wake up every morning and my mindset is I'm going to have fun today. And with whatever I do, hopefully I'm able to help somebody. If not, there's always tomorrow. But I'm going to always give the day 100% and try to learn a little something different.
That's it, man. I love it. Well, appreciate it. Thanks again for coming on, man. And I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, anytime, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.